In the most recent hockey prospecting power rankings of prospect pools, Montreal ranks number 3 in the NHL. We'll be diving into the reasons why. Plus, after the World Under-18 Championships, some prospect rankings have gone up and gone down. We'll be talking about how that might impact the Habs pick, and some more impacts on the Habs pick, and exactly what it means after Florida beat Boston in the first round for the Habs pick. So you won't want to miss anything on this edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's news edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, alongside my co-host, Jesse Poirier. And guys, we're less than 50 subs away from 5,000. Hit the button now. Some of you guys haven't done it. Like, it's right there. Just press it. Where am I? Right down there? I think it's down there. 50 subs away. Come on, we're almost at 5,000. We hope to get there soon. Jesse, the big thing. Habs have a top 3 prospect pool. At least according to Hockey Prospecting, a very interesting website. If you guys haven't been there, I'll probably put the link in the description for you guys to go take a look. But the way they rank prospects is very interesting. They rank them by percent chance of being an NHL player. Like how many players in a certain system have a 30% chance of making the NHL? How many players have a 10% chance at being a star in the NHL? And they rank prospect systems like that. But Jesse, give me your thoughts when you saw that the Habs were ranked number 3 with their top prospects being Lane Hutson, Mashar, Barron, Slafkovsky, and Guhle.
I think this is a great sign because our prospects are finally getting the love they deserve. Lane Hutson is finally getting the respect he deserves, and I feel like he's one of the main ones that is really catapulting just our whole prospect pool way up. They're finally realizing just what a stud of a defenseman this young man is. What I also like too, some insights from his selection is also the inclusion of Justin Barron.
Yeah,
like we already knew that Kaiden Guhle was a great defenseman, but Justin Barron is still going under the radar a little bit. But from the sounds of what he was mentioning in this article, like he feels like many of us like that Justin Barron is going to go off offensively next year. And we know he needs to tighten some things up on his defensive game, but he was always touted as an offensive type of defenseman. And that's really a type of player that we need along with Matheson as well. So I'm really happy to see him getting some love on this list as well.
Yeah, for those of you that are confused as to why someone like Slav, Barron, and Guhle are there, it's players who haven't played 100 games in the NHL yet, and they monitor these players from the year before they're drafted up till 3 years after. It's very, very interesting. Go take a look. But yeah, these guys are very high on Slafkovsky, having him, I believe, in that 10% chance to be a star category. But the main thing is Lane Hutson. They said that he is one of the best offensive defenseman prospects we've seen in a while. Of course, someone like Cale Makar comes up, but Hutson is special. He just had an NCAA season we haven't seen in 3 or 4 decades. But not only Hutson. Even though Hutson is kind of the main thing, he is the guy that's shooting the Habs up the ranking. Here's another reason. The Canadiens have incredible depth in their system, ranking 3rd in star depth and 1st out of every team in NHLer depth with 24 potential future NHLers in the cupboards, and that's 24 players in their system that, according to this model, have a 30% chance of making the NHL. And not even included in the top 5, like we saw in the first picture, Sean Farrell, Joshua Waugh, who don't show star potential, but will definitely have a substantial chance of making the NHL. He goes on to say that the Habs are only an elite center and goalie away from having basically a perfect system. Jesse, I want your thoughts on this sort of elite center and goalie being holes in our prospect system, because to me, Kent Hughes has made a point of going after centers. We might see Pierre-Luc Dubois be a Hab. Those rumors are still out there. Kirby Dach looks to be an elite center long term. To me, the only hole in basically the whole organization is maybe goalie.
It's a great assessment. And I would share, obviously, we know we've talked about it on the show. The goalie prospects is one of the places we're missing, and I think we will probably address that this offseason. I think it's something we want to do sooner than later to bring somebody into the fold, really kind of groom them into that position. But I think as well, I think we still have some room for that top end center depth, and I'm interested to see where that's going to go. And seeing how we're first in all the NHL in what projects to be NHL is like obviously no surprise. We have such great depth, and I see us being able to leverage that into really getting a little bit of that more high-end talent. Now, whether that's grouping some things even as soon as this draft to possibly even move up, we know, I think Kent Hughes knows this as well. So I wouldn't be surprised that this is such a good draft. This is actually one where you might want to take that swing. Let's package up, our 5th and something else, and let's get to that 2nd pick if we can and get to Fantilli. So I think it would be interesting. But that being said, I think even some of our depth guys are going to prove to be amazing. Like there's going to be a couple of them, everybody's telling, okay, they're good, but not great. I'm saying there's going to be at least 1 or 2 of our prospects we have in the system right now besides the people that are in the NHL already that are going to be great. And I don't know if that's Joshua Waugh and Emil Hanneman, but I just have a feeling like one of these players is really going to project to be something as well.
You know, some of them are going to bust, but some of them might boom, right? It's really interesting when it comes to the prospect system. I think you made a very good point in that, like, not all these guys can play for the Habs. There's just not enough room on a roster to play all these prospects. The idea of maybe taking a couple, sending them there for an upgrade, a couple of them sending them there, and just making it so the Habs have like a nice, confined, refined, solid team is the way going forward. So very, very awesome to see the Habs getting the respect they deserve in the top 3. And, you know, speaking of some center depth, I want to talk about some new draft rankings. And they make things kind of interesting for Montreal. And if you guys have been following the draft, the consensus top 1 and 2 seems to be Connor Bedard and Adam Fantilli. But then 3, 4, 5 is a bit interesting. Most of them having, you know, someone like Leo Carlsson, Matvei Michkov, and Will Smith rounding out the top 5, including Scott Wheeler, who is the prospect guy, mock draft guy for The Athletic. Even after the Under-18 World Championships, which just took place, he redid his rankings, and the first guy I want to mention is Will Smith. Will Smith's a guy we talked about at length on this channel, probably heading to the Habs if the Habs get to maybe 4th or 5th, but even though Scott Wheeler has him 5th, and Matvei Michkov ahead of him, I think at number 3. I wanted to mention something, Jesse. We've seen some rumors that Will Smith, especially after this tournament, has shot up some teams' prospect boards for these mock drafts, and there are talks of him going at number 4 before Montreal could get a chance to take him. Again, we don't know where Montreal's picking yet, but if Montreal's at 5 and Will Smith's available at 4, it could very well mean that Montreal could land one of Leo Carlsson or Matvei Michkov.
It's very interesting to see where this is all going to play, and just this increased competition just kind of, it really helps us in the end of just getting the best overall player. But in your opinion, Josh, who would you prefer? Would you prefer Matvei Michkov or Will Smith on the Montreal Canadiens?
Oh man, what a great question. For me, I like to, I'm a person, I know you are too, Jesse, that kind of takes the idea of Matvei Michkov and spins it in a positive light. I don't think you can pass up Michkov if he's there, but I'm not an NHL GM who can really get, like, I can just say, I want Michkov, I'm just a fan. But to me, his talent, his ability, I mean, Will Smith is a hell of a consolation prize, but for me, you got to pick Michkov if he's there.
Yeah, going for that game-breaking talent. I think you got to swing for the fences. You know, like in poker, like in anything else, you got to take those calculated risks. If you don't do that at a certain point, whether it's playing poker or running an NHL franchise, that's just something you got to do at those points. So I feel like he'd be a really good bet to take.
I mean, not to mention, if a team takes Michkov at 3, they're in love with his potential. And say Columbus, a team that's been high on Will Smith, picks him at 4. Habs are sitting at 5, and then all of a sudden Leo Carlsson is there? Like, what is that? He was projected as high as 3 in a lot of mock drafts, so it'll be very interesting to take a look at. Another guy I wanted to talk about really quick in this section, on Scott Wheeler's rankings. We just talked about this guy, how happy we'd be if Montreal could get him with the Florida pick, but no. Scott Wheeler's newest rankings after this Under-18 World Tournament has Gabe Perreault shooting up to number 8. He's stuck his neck out on Perreault since the start of the season. He's preferred to hold firm with his evaluation through to the end of his draft year. Gabe Perreault has looked insane as of late, Jesse. This guy's not even 18 yet, and he's setting all kinds of records. I don't know. Are you becoming a little less confident, especially after this tournament, that the Habs could maybe sneakily get him at somewhere like 17 or 20?
But we were trying to pull that sneaky pick, but I think the word's kind of gotten out on what a great player. Of course, you know, he's showing tremendous chemistry with Will Smith as well. You know, he's showing out when it matters the most, right? You know, so good for him. We'll see where it all unfolds, but obviously if we could snag him, that would be great.
It would be. But, you know, the spot we originally wanted to snag him at was with the Florida pick. But some Habs fans I've seen complaining, oh, Florida beat Boston, the Habs pick is going to be worse. But guys, I'm one of the people who really wasn't sure how the picks worked, how the picks broke down for how playoff series go, and I found something that you guys will probably be pretty happy about. Or maybe not. We'll talk about that. So, the way it works is the teams that did not qualify for the playoffs pick 1 to 16. We all knew that. But the teams that made the playoffs but did not win their division in the regular season or make the conference finals pick 17 to 24. And then the teams that lose in the conference final, and then 3 is, of course, picks 25 to 28. Teams that won their division but didn't play in the conference finals. And then the teams that lose in the conference finals pick 29 and 30. So what this means is that Florida they had the lowest point total of any playoff team at 92. So right now their pick is sitting at 17. Even if they lose this round to Toronto, it's still 17, even though they beat Boston. But Jesse, the problem comes in where the Habs, either if Toronto wins, something most Habs fans don't want, we get Florida's pick at 17. If Florida wins and beats Toronto, the Habs pick will drop to, like, at the very best, 29. So, I don't know, in your mind, what are you prioritizing? The Habs getting pick 17 or the Leafs getting knocked out by the Panthers?
I'm not bitter like that. I just want the good draft pick, as much as, we definitely hear from Leaf fans and everything else. It's about time that they do us a solid. So, all the best to them. I think it'll be a tight, pretty good series for sure. But yeah, I think there's a big difference sometimes, even especially with this draft, is how talent heavy it is. We know there's going to be great picks like through a lot of the rounds, right? Through many of them. But I think getting that mid-round, first-round pick, you can get that compared to that later round. We have been able to strike gold later round in the first round with Cayden Guhle in the past, but around that 17, that's more of the Caufield type territory where, at 13th where we've drafted him, right? So obviously both great players, but definitely would like that 17th pick.
Well, look, Jesse, I mean, even if the Leafs win, I don't have them winning the Stanley Cup, and that'd be the only situation where I'd be pretty upset, because if they beat the Panthers and lose in the conference finals, who cares? I'm also a Devil's truther, by the way. They're my team going forward since my Habs and my Minnesota Wild are both gone. Cheering for the Newfie boy, Dawson Mercer. This is the other one in Colorado, Alex Newhook. They just got knocked out by the Kraken, but I'm going Dawson Mercer and the Devils all the way. I'm riding them, so if they can beat the Leafs in the conference finals, so be it. But that'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. Let us know what you think about the Florida and the Leafs series down in the comments below. Who's going to win? What do you care more about, the pick or the Leafs losing? Let us know. But yeah, that was a fun episode, Jesse. I've been Josh Gosse for my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.